The reason CABIA is in existence is because the company that I run, Timely Industries, was hit by a PAGA lawsuit. We were sued for over $1 million because our employees took a lunch later than 5 hours because we gave a safety incentive that was misclassified. We have unhappy employees now because we have no more flexible work schedule. We have no incentives. We can't give them, we're not even sure how to calculate them because that rule changed. And it keeps changing. This is the Labor Law Digest. It's over 1,100 pages. You make one violation in this Labor Law Digest, you can end up with a PAGA lawsuit, Private Attorney General Act, wage and hour lawsuit. Examples of these are exactly like the board we got back here. The state got $3.6 million. The attorneys got $2.3 million. Each driver got $1.08 each. The law was built and put together in 2004 to protect employees. It doesn't protect employees. The only people it protects the attorneys, the trial attorneys that are suing good business owners. The issue is, too many times, businesses are getting a bad rap in this state of California, and they don't deserve to be. They work harder than anybody else. They provide jobs, they provide income, and they do what they should be doing. And perks that are given to employees shouldn't be turned around and put into a lawsuit. It needs to stop.
Today, probably right now, we have filed electronically this complaint. The defendant is the State Attorney General, Javi Becerra. That doesn't mean that he is physically a defendant. We are suing the state of California, and we sue the state of California by suing him because he's the one who's supposed to enforce the PAGA law. And in this complaint, and I urge everyone to read it, it explains in detail the origins of this law, how it's been changed over time, how decisions by appellate courts and the Supreme Court have affected the law and ultimately affected everyone here and their business. PAGA is an unprecedented transfer of power. And let me just focus on that. Unprecedented. There isn't a law like it in any other state. The federal government of the United States does not have a law like PAGA. In drafting this complaint, we got down to the nuts and bolts of what the legislature did in 2004 when they drafted this law. What was most shocking, the legislature understood every one of these issues that's raised in this complaint in 2004. Rather than do their job and focus on what a proper delegation of power would be, where the state retains the control, the legislature decided to give the plaintiffs' bar and their clients unfettered state authority to go after every business in the state of California. Great companies are being attacked, charities, and even labor unions are being attacked under this law. And there's no oversight or involvement by the state of California. Let me repeat that. There is no oversight or involvement by the state of California. Every allegation in this complaint is either proven in the complaint because we cite to the legislative history or whatever standard exists under the state, or will be proven in Orange County Superior Court.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you to everybody for coming out. I'm here for a couple of reasons. One is I've seen this problem in the courtrooms right down the street, Orange County Superior Court, as a lawyer defending businesses that have been hit by these abusive lawsuits. The other reason I'm here is I've seen in Sacramento the fact that the legislature, which I served in for 6 years, will not come to grips with this problem. I brought numerous bills when I was in Sacramento. Great colleagues of mine, Shannon Grove and Brian Jones, brought great bills trying to rein in PAGA. They get a hearing, they get a perfunctory partisan vote, they're heard from no more. And so what's happening today is that we're taking that fight out of the legislature because there's no hope whatsoever that the state will do right by California's business owners, and instead taking it to the courts where serious constitutional and statutory challenges are being made. So I applaud everybody involved in this litigation. This is unfortunately the way we're going to have to try to deal with PAGA. Maybe this litigation gets the attention, let's hope, of the legislature. And we know two of the folks that I just mentioned, Brian Jones and Shannon Grove, are going back as senator-elects, going back to the state senate. Maybe finally the legislature will take a look at this, and at their work, at their impetus, will end up actually reforming PAGA. And if they don't, and they don't do it soon, this lawsuit puts Xavier Becerra, it puts Governor Brown, it puts Governor-elect Newsom, and it puts everybody else in Sacramento on notice that California's businesses are not going to stand by and let unscrupulous lawyers who really have no concern for their workers. They're concerned for their own pocketbook, and we know that. I know that from some of the legislation I brought in Sacramento. I can tell you about one case where we had over 100 business owners and others who were responsible for enforcing things like the wage and hours laws, the disabilities laws, coming and testifying and telling us not just how tough it was to comply with these laws, but how they are also a trap for the unwary. And what ends up happening is Sacramento changes the rules, and somebody finds the loophole, finds to change the rule before the business does, and can come in, and you really can't end up defending against these lawsuits because of how the statutes are written. It's a racket.
Just yesterday, a friend of mine tells me he's now part of a PAGA lawsuit defense, a direct attack on democracy. Petition circulators are notoriously paid commission only. You're paid per signature. Some will pass 2 or 3 different referendums at a time. There's now been an attack on a petition circulator. You can't do that work. You can't put things on the ballot if you have to pay somebody per hour, if you can't use independent contractors to circulate petitions. That's a direct attack on our democracy and on the ability of people to bring the change that Sacramento won't bring. That's a horrible affront, and PAGA needs to be reformed right now.
I'm here as a retired judge today to tell you California faces a litigation crisis. Frivolous, unwarranted lawsuits, similar and PAGA lawsuits are being brought to our courts, jamming the courts up. Legitimate issues that need to get to trial in our courts are being pushed aside by trial attorneys whose sole interest is in lining their pockets.
I too stand here very proudly as a very hardworking small business owner in the state of California. I have been hit in the head, over the head, with one of these frivolous, terrible lawsuits. I was right. My attorney said to me, "You're right, and you can be right for $100,000, and you can be wrong and walk away for $35,000. I wrote the check for $35,000, but it hurt. It burned me, it burned my business, it burned my employees. So I stand here as a very hardworking, strong-willed woman in business in the state of California, demanding PAGA reform now.
As an immigrant, been in this country for 41 years and built myself a small nest, and that was challenged purely by these frivolous lawsuits. I had to make a deal with these attorneys so I could not lose all my assets. I think it's not fair. This PAGA law needs to go, and the state needs to take control of any matter related to labor themselves, but not allow these attorneys to do a lawless wild, wild west, I would call it. And time is now. We should all act, and we should all, small business owners, get together and get this reform done now.
We have 700 employees. I got hit with a PAGA lawsuit about 4 or 5 years ago. Didn't know what it was. I had two guys that worked for me. They were all making close to 3 figures. They made great money, advanced. Then I found out they were stealing from me. All right? Caught them red-handed with photographs. We ended up getting rid of them. We fired them. Nowadays you can't fire anybody without a lawsuit. We fired them. 2 weeks later I got hit with I thought it was an island in the Pacific. I didn't even know what a PAGA lawsuit was, but I found out real quick when I got hit with a $59 million lawsuit because these guys were in charge of routing our trucks and making sure the trucks all went out on time and to make sure all the drivers got their lunch breaks. Because people didn't clock out. I've got drivers all over Southern California in trucks, 125 trucks. They don't want to punch in, they don't want to punch out. They take their lunch whenever they want to take it out. Nobody's ever complained. But because we didn't document it, we got hosed for a big lawsuit, and here we are today. And not to mention all the other lawsuits. I don't know whether Tom showed you what the labor laws looked like in what? It would look like a comic book in 1957, a comic book. That's what we should have here.
Richard and I were at a meeting, and we had a congressman there, and they said to me, they asked me, well, Tom, what do you want? Do you want the laws to go back to 1957?
Yay!
And I said, well, let me ask you this, Congressman. Is your restroom warmer than 68 degrees? Well, I don't know. Well, that wasn't a law here, but it's a law here. And if your restroom's under 68 degrees, you're going to end up with a PAGA lawsuit.
I've been in business for 56 years in the building material business through the glory days and watched them turn to the horror days. And it all because of crazy laws that the plaintiff attorneys have been able to buy the people in Washington and also in California. This would be the biggest crime family in the world today, this group of attorneys that have now hit California. And it's going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of good people to get this thing taken care of. And the only way we can do it is through the courts, because the legislators will not stand for it. They want us to bring $100 million to Sacramento through the lobbyists to get this done, and it would take 2 years if it could even be done. One company, the ambulance people, paid $20 million to get theirs done. So the only way we can do it is good quality legal advice, which we have, and great businesses behind us to support it 100%. There's nothing like winning. I think we've all agreed to that. And this is what we have to look forward to. Good, solid fight, and we can handle it.
This is something that I believe in. This is something that's wrong. You know, I get the calls every other day from business owners who say to me, oh my God, I'm going to lose my business. Oh my God, they're telling me I owe $5 million. Oh, I was going to retire. I had my business sold. How is this happening? Where do I turn to? And nobody has the answer except the attorneys and the legislators that's created this mess. It's a mess. And it has to change. And this is, I think, our best shot, our best legitimate shot at it, telling the story and saying, courts, we need to do something, and we need to do something now. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I appreciate each and every one of you.
Thank you.